The world is waking up, and you finding your way here today is no coincidence. The spirit world always has a way of guiding us where we most need to be at the absolute perfect time. I'm your host, Lindsay Morlock, and you're listening to the Guided Podcast, where we explore how the spirit world works on our behalf to guide us along our paths. This is where you'll learn how to live a life that is both conscious and connected, so you can supercharge your pathway to healing and open to life's magic and miracles. Come along this journey to see how guided you truly are. Hello. I'm so excited that you found your way here. So welcome. I want to introduce you to the Guided Podcast by asking you a question. Have you ever found yourself feeling like there has got to be more to life than the current reality you're experiencing? Deep down, I think we all desire a fulfilling and purposeful life. But there's so much noise in our worlds, from the news and social media outlets to beliefs and expectations that we grow up with. There's so much chatter and fear driving our behavior each and every day. And truthfully, the noise keeps us reaching for things outside of ourselves for happiness. We think our problems can be solved with more money, a new job, living somewhere different, the next vacation. Fill in the blank here of whatever your own mind might be telling you. It's this perception of when I have this, whatever this may be, or when I get there, wherever that is, then I'll be happy. Then everything will be okay. So there's nothing wrong with desiring any of these things. And it's also true that these things could definitely improve our lives in many different ways. But the challenge with this thinking is that they're not the true source of our abundance in this lifetime. So there's a great paradox here because most of us are searching for something, but we tend to look for that thing in the wrong places. We look externally for our worth. We look externally for our happiness. We look externally to relationships to fulfill needs that we aren't meeting within ourselves. And it's easy to fall prey to these distractions because they're everywhere. So instead of tuning into our hearts, we go right to our minds and we look to what people say we should want, or what people say is acceptable, or what people say to make us feel worthy or successful as a way of navigating our lives. But what happens when you arrive at that place that you're so convinced was going to fix everything, and you have all the things and it still feels like dissatisfaction or emptiness? Usually we're either frustrated that things aren't different because we feel like we might be working hard to change our circumstances and end up feeling victimized in the process, or we might move the bar on ourselves, setting yet another standard that needs to be attained or milestone that needs to be achieved for us to feel ultimately happy. Can you tell that there's no winning in this equation? The reality is, when we're looking outside of ourselves, we never find what we're looking for because what we're searching for always comes from within. When we look outside of ourselves for the solutions to our problems, we turn away from our greatest resource, our inner being, that part of ourself that whispers the way and drops the breadcrumbs to show us our next step. And we allow ourselves to be driven at times by all the shoulding. And when we do that, we stop tuning in to what our souls are truly yearning for. And this looks a bit different for each one of us. Sometimes you might not be able to see clearly where you're headed, and you're so disconnected from your dreams or your desires that you have no idea where to even start. Or maybe you're someone that sees other people living a life that you think would feel good for you, and yet you find yourself with this endless list of reasons as to why that can't or won't ever happen for you. Or maybe you find that for whatever reason, you can't quite figure out how to get where you want to be. Or maybe the tools you acquire or things you learn to help support your own evolution never quite seem to have a lasting impact. And I get it because I've felt all of these things many times over. There's periods of my own life when I was stuck in cycles of depression and constantly feeling like I wasn't enough. And I felt powerless to change it. But like most humans, I was also deeply motivated by my pain. And I was committed to searching for the things that would support the change I so desperately wanted. I knew there had to be more to life than how I was living mine. In fact, I even knew that I had a good life, but it didn't feel good to me. So at the time, I justified that my life was good enough, trying to rationalize and accept my circumstances. But in hindsight, I also realized that I was trying to convince myself to settle for a life that I had absolutely no satisfaction in. So talk about a downer. I was just as guilty of the futuristic thinking that I spoke about earlier, trying to achieve or arrive at a particular destination, thinking I would be happy once I got there, only to find that once I reached that place, I still felt totally unfulfilled and completely empty usually. And the irony in all of this is that from the outside looking in, people thought I had it all together. People looked at my master's degree, the fact that I owned my own home, I had family, friends, a corporate job complete with a chief operating officer title. There was nothing wrong with my life. And I carried tremendous guilt because I knew there were people out there who would dream of living the life I had. But it didn't change the fact that the life I was living wasn't my right life. And it was deeply dissatisfying for me. So functional depression became a regular friend of mine. I wasn't happy, or at least could never seem to find any sustainable happiness. And the reason was because I was looking for happiness in all of the wrong places, outside of myself. But I've come to learn over time that the true path to happiness required me finding my way back into myself, to learn how to connect with the wisdom of my body, to understand my emotions, to reconnect with my soul. And the truth is that I couldn't have been more disconnected from any of these parts of myself. And let me tell you something, I'm probably not that different from you because many of us are living completely disconnected from the truth of who we really are. This earth plane is literally designed to separate us from our core essence. And during our lifetime, we are here to learn how to reconnect with that part of ourselves, with the truth of who we are. And finding my way back to my soul self only started to happen when I learned how to live a life that was both conscious and connected to the spiritual realms. This is how I learned to connect to my own spiritual support team, which supercharged my pathway to healing. It taught me how to partner with spirit to heal the wounds of my past so that I could create a different future. And while I'll continue to grow and evolve along my journey, looking back, I'm so grateful that I didn't settle for the life I had because today I am living the life I was dreaming about. And for me, there was a time in my own healing where I was sick of talking about my problems in therapy. I knew what the problems were. I didn't need to keep rehashing them. I was just desperate for a solution that would actually work. I had a box full of tools, but for whatever reason, I could never sustain any real change. Those old patterns just kept reeling me right back in, and I'd find myself a little further than where I started, but nowhere close to where I really wanted to be. And I'm a recovering binge eater, so along my path to healing, I was always one negative thought and a bag of chips away from a total downward spiral. And I was sick of feeling that edge all the time. I felt like I was white-knuckling my way through the process, and I knew it wasn't sustainable for me. So happiness continued to be fleeting because it was contingent on measures of success outside of me. My weight loss, a number on the scale, what foods I was eating or not eating, and the perfectionism around that, and whether or not the effort I was putting forth into the healing was even doing anything for me. So no matter how much I may have achieved in my external world, including a 100-pound weight loss, it didn't fix the deep void that remained within me. But my entire life changed when I learned how to marry consciousness with spirituality. When I stopped trying so hard doing all the things and instead allowed the spirit world to move me through this healing process in a way that was going to be most supportive of my own evolution, that's when everything started to change. Did I need to take responsibility for healing my wounds? Yes. Did I need to be honest with myself in the process, even when it was uncomfortable? Yup. Did it take effort on my part? Absolutely. And was it worth it? Beyond anything I can even communicate fully. And the best part is that the changes have been lasting. I'm finally living in a place both emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually, that I love. I'm doing deeply fulfilling work in the world that I feel deeply passionate about. And I know with certainty that I will move through anything life throws at me, no matter what it is. It doesn't mean it's not going to be painful, doesn't mean it's not going to be messy, but I have the confidence in myself now to move through it with my spiritual support team. It's allowed me to reconnect with my own intuition, helped me to learn how to trust myself again. And I'm connected to my own spiritual support team in a way where they guide me where I most want to be, the most prepared I possibly can be for what I want. And so I can trust that whatever's being thrown my way is perfect for my own growth and evolution. And I know I never would have been able to get where I am now without the guidance from the other side. Am I perfect at any of it? Nope, far from it. I throw gutter balls left and right. Every day is a school day in my world, but the benefits of this life have allowed me to experience more peace, more passion, and more joy than I ever thought was possible for myself. And to me, this is truly the benefit of living a life that's guided. To know that all facets of your life are incredibly purposeful, like the good and the uncomfortable. There's truly a divine intelligence to all of it. To know that you're going to be loved and supported through the entire ride, even if it looks different than how you might have scripted it yourself. But it can be overwhelming to understand where to start and how to awaken to your own divinity, to the support that is always available to you, and how to even engage spirit in ways that allow you to heal and co-create your most fulfilling life, but in a very grounded way. So during our time together, we're going to be tapping into stories of spiritual evolution and transformation that are going to help to teach, support, and inspire you along your path. Each week, you're going to hear from spiritual seekers, teachers, practitioners who are combining both spirituality and consciousness to facilitate their own healing, help others do the same, and live their own guided lives. And I'll be diving into my own journey deeply along the way. The spirit world is really calling us forward to take risks, to explore new ways of thinking, new ways of being, new ways of making a living, of being in relationship with others, and especially new ways of being in relationship with yourself. You are being asked to live your life in ways that are authentically you. Not the you that is conformed to the restrictions and limitations that society has imposed upon you, but the you that is underneath all of those projections. So open your mind, get curious about the spirit world, get ready to learn how to open to the magic and miracles in your own life. And I am living proof that when we live a life that is both conscious and connected, our dreams, both big and small, really do come true. We don't need to hustle or push to make things happen like we've been taught. In fact, bringing our dreams to life is so much more overwhelming and exhausting when we do it that way. But there is another way to live your life. And I'm excited to show you how much more magical the ride can be when we allow spirit to show us that way. And the best news is, everything you need already resides within you. You just need to understand how to connect with that wisdom. So if you're ready to live a life that is both conscious and connected, to heal the wounds of your past so you can create a life you've never imagined, I hope you'll join me each week to learn how guided you truly are. Thank you so much for listening to the Guided Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, I would be so grateful if you would share it with a friend or even leave me a review so we can ensure that it makes its way into the ears of listeners who need to hear these messages most. Until next time, may you remember how guided you truly are.